What is up, podcast community? My name is Cam King. This is Three Questions Podcast. Today, I have my good friend, my longtime friend, Dan Allard, with me on episode 58. Dan, what's going on? Welcome to the show.
Oh, not much. Thanks for having me, Cam. Glad to be here.
My pleasure. So, the whole purpose of Three Questions Podcast, I started this podcast as a format. A lot of my coaching and consulting clients would ask me questions and they wanted me to sort of answer these in a public forum. So I started this podcast to sort of answer their anonymous questions. Also, I've sprinkled in some things that I've Googled, some things that I've wanted to learn, and some of the answers and educational things that I brought forth from that I share on the podcast. And as I continue to learn, I've wanted to get more experts on here, people who have a wide swath of experience from business development to sales to marketing and beyond. And I'm getting a lot of experts here. Of course, my dog starts itching right now. Hello. And as I've gotten more people on here, they've really shared some world-class information. And now with your business development career, you've done so much in your time. I'd love to know and ask a few questions about maybe where you started to what you're doing now before we hop into the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Started right in college, cold calling, and trying to get people's social security numbers and birth dates for a equipment finance company. Really cut my teeth there. Actually was decently successful. And that company is doing gangbusters and doing really well, but was there a little bit and, college and the education piece, wasn't a great fit for me. Had some learning difficulties and different ways of learning. I kind of wish they had the technology and those types of things today. I think I would have probably been a better student. But I've always been curious and been a student of what people are doing and coachable. So really looking to learn. So then I got introduced to a team that was doing having a design agency. I was the third employee in there and helped grow them over the course of 14 years to getting acquired. And that was really kind of an MBA on steroids, running and working at an agency that was, high growth. Didn't know anything about the design world. It was before iPhones were around, so really ever-changing market. So, in terms of being in sales, you're not selling widgets in that case. A lot of it's consultative, and you really have to provide value to people. So, learned how to design products. The strategy behind it, the philosophy of being an entrepreneur in the digital space, and have really grown my education and thinking around that. And it's an approach I think everyone needs to take if you're in sales, no matter what you're selling. There's a need for asking good questions and being able to provide feedback and sometimes provide information that, hey, we can't help you and you need to go in this direction. So really giving to get in that sense. And that's the philosophy and what I try to take. And it's, every deal is not going to be a sale, but, staying and keeping relationships allows you to be kind of, helpful, and you never know when those opportunities come.
I totally agree. So if for the people listening to the podcast right now, Dan and I met because we were both doing new business back in Boston. And to me, that's the best part of the job is you get to network. You're never selling first. You're trying to meet people and you're trying to patch holes and connect people and spin your own web. And hopefully that web catches you something in the future, right? You're not really giving to get, but you have to be an extrovert and you have to want to connect people because light bulbs are always going off. You're like, I got to introduce this guy to this guy because you guys should talk and you're like-minded and you guys have the same hobby. So that's what new business and development and sales really is to me. And it sounds like you're saying the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe give to get isn't the case, but the connecting people and just kind of being that, being helpful is what it's and it's makes me feel good, right?
Hmm.
Getting sales and getting a deal is always great, but helping someone make an introduction that turns into a podcast interview or turns into another connection, that's that's really rewarding as well, and helps for the downtime when you're not making sales or when things aren't or we're a little slower.
Yeah, absolutely. Sales come with time, but I've always operated, and I've talked about this on the podcast specifically, but there's four rules of business development that I think are absolute laws of the universe. And that's people do business with people that they know, like, trust, and need. And it's in that order. And I have never found anything to not say that that is the case. And with business development, there's another really good book called No More Mr. Nice Guy that
Mm.
I think is part of a sales book, but it talks about the giving to get thing. And I've always applied that aspect of that book to sales. You never really want to give to get, right? Having those expectations will always bite you in the ass at some point. But literally, like you get a joy, you get a great dopamine hit of being like, oh, dude, you guys got to talk. And I'm glad we stayed in touch over the years, but let's talk about what you're doing now for Metaspex. Why don't you give us a quick rundown before we hop into the questions there?
Yeah, so for the past year, I've been helping a company called Metaspex that has a application to rapidly develop enterprise custom backends, so software and really scalable solutions. And the gentleman that founded it, Vincent, he has flipped the process and on its head around building and creating enterprise custom applications. Not going less code, low code, not actually doing more people, throwing more engineers at the problem. And we've been working for the past year. We have two products that we've released using it, and it's pretty outstanding. We're seeing anywhere from 100 to 1,000x output in efficiencies while creating these apps, and they run faster. There are less bugs. They're more secure. It's pretty exciting, and had a lot of conversations over the year, and it's been awfully educational. I don't know much about tech. I didn't know much about technology. I was more design focused in my previous selling and business development roles. So this has been a good way to learn, and still have a lot to learn. I'm only kind of scratching the surface.
Hell yeah. I love that. Well, let's hop into some of your expertise. As you know, three questions podcast. How I do this, I just time it for five questions. That's mostly to limit rambling or put in a concise thing. I did that for myself, and I'm surprised it's kept me pretty honorable. I listen to too many podcasts where people just ramble on and on and on. I'm like, dude, get to the point. So um what I'll say is this, right? I'll hold up four fingers when you're getting to like 4 minutes,
Sure.
just so you know, but I'll ask you the question. We'll mute. You don't have to take up the entire time if you want, but I want you to answer it your way, right? I think it's the best way to do it is just straight off the cuff and come from the heart, because that's never wrong in my opinion. So, question number one, with your background in mind, what is your philosophy of sales and business development? I know we just talked about that a little bit, but give me the whole spiel. Your 5 minutes starts now.
Yeah, so I think it comes back to growth, growth within any organization. And the way I see it is it's a philosophy that's top down within any company, and everyone needs to realize, no matter who they are within the organization, they're part of sales. And they don't necessarily have to be the person that's doing it, but they could see opportunities and let people know that are in charge of business development, or keeping clients happy, or keeping making sure people have what they need within that. So it's top down, and that really can help create growth. And then within that, you've got marketing teams doing what they're doing, and you have business development sales teams, SDRs, AEs doing what they're doing, and they really need to make sure that they're working collaboratively, because things are changing so quickly these days. There's education that's coming out, almost too much information. And if you're not up on kind of what's happening, if you're not providing value to your customer base, your prospect base, there's plenty of other products out there, and there's other places that these people can go. Like you said earlier, people do business with who they like, who they trust. That is part of it. Then that in part of building that is being able to educate. So in order to create a tremendous amount of growth, there needs to be a complete alignment within the organization that we're on the same path, and that path is towards growing the organization and getting more customers, helping people, providing value for what you're doing. And then within that as well, there's all the tools, so the other things that are necessary in order to create growth. And that's an understanding of sending emails, making phone calls, getting lunches, getting coffee, doing those things, going to networking events. All those things that are business development related are important and part of the everyday job, but making sure that you're able to provide value during those times. So there's an educational piece, to that. And I think nowadays people want immediate results. I have a buddy that was let go or put on PIP after like a month of starting at a role, and that's just the expectations there within an organization that does something like that is bonkers in my mind. I think there needs to be, this complete alignment of, how do we do things? What's the timing need to look like? And, how we can really go about this as an organization. And, a lot of these products, they're new. There's innovation happening. And if people don't understand what they're actually the solution that you can offer, and if it's not clear and concise, if they aren't, it's not showing the type of problems that you're solving, then they're not going to fully understand and not see a value in what you have. And it's a timing game. This, sales and business development and even marketing. Marketing's for awareness, but business development in general is timing. It's why you stay in touch with people. It's why you want to connect, because just because they're not going to, buy from you that day or need your services or need something, there's an opportunity down the road that the timing will be right, or there's an introduction they can make. So it's this idea of, creating this an entire web of opportunities and of education and of all the tools related to that, social, all these different aspects of building awareness, building demand, and generating new business. And if you have everyone within an organization focused on those opportunities, those talking points, those problem areas, you're able to create better products. You're able to, create better services around that. You're able to really, truly create exponential growth within an organization, if everyone is thinking and has that mindset.
Hey, dude, spot on. You're at 4 minutes, but one thing that you said there that I think is so good. It's the reason why you get coffee. It's the reason why you continue to connect with people. And when you do that, it's not like, hey, check out what we're doing. Hey, we have this new product. It's like it's a human to human perspective. It's, hey brother, how are you? Like, what's up? Let's take a pause. And when I was working in Boston doing new business, my days flew by because it was like, hey, let's grab coffee. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that, right? Let's catch up on sports. Let's just bullshit. And you don't, it almost feels unproductive and counterintuitive at some points, but that's the
Right.
kind of little shit that over time that you're just like, dude, what's up? You have a kid? Like you're golfing now? Like, bro, you joined the military? Like, what are you doing? It's I miss that. And I don't want to say it's the only position in the ad world or marketing world or sales world that's like that, but if the better that you can be at doing that, like the more success that you have. And it's crazy, right? Your aspect shouldn't be selling first. Selling should
Right.
be the last thing on your list, but you should just be a good dude. Don't quit and be there for other people, like genuinely care about other people.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I think back to the alignment with the organization, if they don't
mhm,
see that getting coffee or doing those types of activities and keeping
mhm.
relationships, and building relationships is important, then they're just going to be like, make your 40 dials, send your email
Yeah.
cadences, and do those things. And that's I think that's a recipe for having some, internal issues at some point. It may work for a while, but there's going to be a tipping point where that's going to be a problem.
I totally agree. I've also had a lot of friends that have done the dialing for dollars thing where they're like, I need to have 300 phone calls a week and, need to have 15 meetings in, this week or else I'm going to lose my job. I'm like, bro, that's no way to live your life, dude. That's so stressful, right? Plus, that
Yeah.
doesn't produce results, right? I could never work for a software. I can never work as a SaaS rep or anything. So, I'm very grateful for my time in new business. Sounds like you are too, but I think that's great philosophy. So, excellent answer. Um, Question number two. I'm gonna jump in there. It's in your work with Metaspex now. My question is, how do you approach selling the impossible? You're selling an ethereal solution, and I've always come from the mindset of being able to tell somebody that they have a problem, but also that I have the solution for that problem. So how do you approach selling the impossible like that?
Yeah, and I think, when I say the impossible, when I wrote the question, I think it's it's partly also the invisible, and it's the unknown, and venturing into any space like that is massively challenging. And I had a buddy, when I told him about the product, he's an engineer, sales guy. He's like, geez, you really like take on some challenging problems. And because he also it wasn't quite sure that this product was able to do what we said it could. And I think and what I've learned in the past year, because before we were selling much more, I was selling much more tangible. You could see the design, you can see the product, and see everything that's working. And in this case, it's a 0 to 1. We at the early on, we were doing a lot of research. We were asking people for feedback, getting their thoughts, hoping they were curious and asking us a lot of questions. And people were open to it, and we have had a lot of great conversations. But the big challenge with something, as compelling, but also as kind of unknown and industry changing, the pushback has been real. Even from a lot of friendlies that we've spoken with, it's whether it's built on C++, right? So, oh, C++ is a dated language. Well, that's because over the years they're always looking for the next technology, the next solution that's going to be the one, right? That's easier to do. Even with what they're talking about with AI right now, it makes everything easier. But and that's what technology should do. It should make things, tasks, engineering easier, and it's not. And then you're also bumping up against problems where it can't support a feature from a low code, no code standpoint, or something there. So that type of feedback is there. We're hearing, well, it's not possible. You're lying. It can't do what it does. We've built 2 products. That's actually really helped with selling the impossible, because now you can see. But even then, you have the people that say, well, I don't know if it's quite there, right? So I think the approach comes back to what I was talking about earlier with growth, and positioning is important. Brand positioning, and again, being able to tell the story, being able to explain the problems that you're solving, and how you can leverage how the prospects and the clients can leverage your tools or your services. um, that's helpful, and they're going to be doing the research on their own. With cold outreach or with friendly outreach, people are still going to research you, Google you. They want to kind of see what's going on. So you're in an early stage. You've got to be thinking about content. You have to be doing those other things, that and testing everything, test and learn around that. So getting content, getting different positioning out there. And I think the final piece, it's continuing to not stop. And I think in this case, we have we're very close to really I think a tipping point here. But it's been a year, and I think in terms of with sales and with growing a company, it takes time, and you have to know that. And you're gonna meet one person. I met one person that happened to be a friend, and I realized he worked at a company and was doing something, and we had created a product very perfect for what they do, as an organization. And who would have known, right? I was just out. We were having a drink after a round of golf, and boom, that opportunity came in. So I think selling the impossible or the unknown, or the new, it takes trial and error. It takes testing, and it takes the idea that you can't stop. You've got to continue to push on, and you've got to push got to push the different ways of trying new things, and learning what's working and what's not. And knowing that if you have something that is truly as powerful and you believe in it, you're not going to stop. And that's why, if you're working for a company right now and you don't believe in the product, don't believe in what they're doing, move on, because that's not going to create success for you. And in this case, you're at that point, you're selling the impossible, because you don't believe in what you're doing. So internally, if you don't believe in it, you're not going to come off, no matter what conversation that you have, and who you're talking to, as someone that's passionate and that's interested in actually helping you solve your problem, because you don't believe that that's going to work. So, and I know too many times, people, they need the paycheck, or want to do something. But in that case, you got to take a really interesting and introspective look at yourself and say, let's go somewhere different here where I can be passionate and where I can do something. And that's what I think, the main piece is you got to be passionate about selling something that's, innovative and that's going to be massively um, disruptive, to a market because a lot's going to happen if the product that you're doing does change the way things work. There's a lot of people, there are a lot of jobs that might be impacted, and it could cause some waves.
Dude, I couldn't have said that better myself, especially that last part. I think I finished a book on archetypes. I don't know if
Mm,
you've ever heard about archetypes, but there's
I have.
essentially four primary ones that every human being has, and that is, let me see if I can get them right. It's the child, the victim, the saboteur, and the prostitute. And the prostitute is not so much selling our body, but it's the cost of our own life force to the things that we agree to, right? Talking about a job. And I've thought about that a lot recently just because of my circumstances with my work. And when you really commit to something,
Mm,
whether it be a job or a contract or a partner or a marriage, whatever it is, when you really commit to something, if your heart isn't in it, that thing is not going to work out long term.
mm,
And I
yep.
think a lot of people who are probably unhappy in positions will take a job because they need that paycheck or because they do something. And then the selling portion, especially if you're in sales or new business, does become impossible. So to answer your question, hey, how do you sell the impossible? It's like people have imagined some crazy things, but they've always believed it. They believe, or they believe in the people around them to be able to produce something. And that's when that thing gets produced. That's when that thing gets done. And it is so hard. People have a sixth or a seventh or an eighth sense to be able to see when you don't believe in something yourself, if you don't believe in your own self and what you're doing, people can sense that. And it becomes that much more difficult to sell, especially when you don't believe in that product. Then it's so easy for other people not to believe in that product too.
Mm.
But when you have that twinkle in your eye and you're like, my team's the best. I know we can do this. I see a problem and my guys are the best ones to do it. Like people feel that. And I think selling is a very emotional thing. I think most people, probably 75, 80% of it is an emotional purchase,
Yeah.
right? That, yeah, they need to know you, like you, trust you, and need you. But, when you can make selling an emotional hook for people, that's majority of the way for sure.
You got to bring the excitement and energy to
Mhm.
it and
Yeah.
be that cheerleader. And when you do that, I remember some of our better deals, ever where it was, we were super pumped. I was super excited with what we were going to be working on because it was going to be such an impactful type of project. So, yeah, I think, if you can't bring that energy, it's going to be a major uphill battle and you're going to be getting a lot of no's.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've been pitched or solicited by other salespeople, whether they're software people or whatever, and you hop on a call and that person's like barely hanging on to life. And you're like, brother, even if I was interested, I'm not buying from you right now. You've got to bring it. And I think a lot of people probably try and hype themselves up with caffeine or energy drinks to do it or to get there. But it's like, no, dude, it starts with the heart. You got to feel it there first, and then it's got to resonate to
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah,
But
there's no amount of drink, caffeine, or anything that can make you truly passionate and
yeah,
and excited
yeah,
talking about
just go to the financial center and get in line at Starbucks in Boston, and you'll see all the people trying to hype themselves into what they're doing every single day. But
right.
my last question for you, Dan, is what is the future of business development? Where do you see it going? If you want to talk about AI, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. Yes, sequences are a thing these days, but where do you see the future going?
I think there are going to probably be some jobs and roles that are going to be kind of sunset, unfortunately, and but I think that that's going to allow for those people to maybe do something that they're more passionate about. But it's going to create efficiencies within an organization and probably profits. But I think the people that are curious and that they're learners and that they can provide value and have the connections and create relationships as we've talked about, you're going to be, and those people I think are going to be in really great positions to then be able to leverage AI and other tools to make more efficiencies within the organization, especially in consultative, types of roles where you're creating custom solutions, for those people, services and service selling, those things, where you've got to scope projects, you've got to do the type of research to truly understand what the problem that you're solving is. I think AI will be able to help you answer questions more effectively, but not replace you, because people still buy from who they like and who they know, and who they get, creating a good rapport with as they're going through, and who brings the energy. Right? It's back to that kind of that idea that no computer is going to be able to do that. I think that um, you're going to need to be curious. You're going to need to be learning about how to use these other tools, learning how to create prompts within AI, learning what other types of software or applications are out there, and then also be a student of reading who's talking about what strategies are they using, what strategies are working. And I think this is a time when innovation's going to is going to happen. I heard that Y Combinator had to open up their most recent class because they didn't get enough ideas that they liked or that were feasible. So I think that something's going on with a lack of curiosity or lack of trying to problem solve, that's out there. And maybe that's kind of a good thing as well from a technology standpoint, because I think technology as well, while it's tremendously valuable, I think it's kind of looked at. It's not the end all, right? You went into the military, for example, right, and you use technology there, but it's a different type of life experience than when you were at agency selling it and doing that type of work. So I wonder if the removal of these jobs and technology helping will allow people to be more creative and do other things. We were talking about earlier, getting to art and being more, more athletics, and different sports. Doing, spending time more time outside. Those types of things that then you can create products potentially around that, that create communities of people that are doing other things and relying on technology to solve every other problem. The last thing we need is another social network or another productivity tool, or something, right? It's you need to have the curiosity to bring value to to people, and to help them solve problems. So I think you know there's going to be changes happening here in the near future. But I don't think it's, I still think that AI is a long way off to be able, to do a lot and replace humans. But I think, you need to stay curious and educate yourself so you can, continue to bring ideas and, be a critical thinker and ask good questions to the table in order to be, truly a good business development person, business development, big B, big D.
Yeah, once again, I agree with you. I think a lot of people are very quick to throw in the towel with AI. I think people have said, oh, the end is near, it's all going to take our job. I think it's going to take a lot longer than people think. I think it's going to be another 30, 40 years before really technology can supplement what a person can do. People can bring a lot of energy. I think AI is going to be a tool for the rest of our lives for sure and beyond. And I think it's going to continue to grow, but I still think it's going to be more people driven than we're currently imagining. So it'll be really interesting to see and to say. I only say that because of the world that I came from, working in advertising. Like, we've been talking about AI and all these technology and creative solutions for a long time. So we've kind of seen it coming, but the rest of the world is still so far behind. I think we forget that, I read a stat from somebody. It's like, if you make $30,000 USD a year, you're in the 1% of the world. I think we're forgetting just how far
Yeah.
back majority of the world is. And I think that at the end of the day, I don't think anything will beat human to human connection. The world doesn't need another social media platform. It needs more people being able to sit down and have a conversation, and or be able to disagree on something but still continue to have that conversation. That's what I think the world needs right now. So human development is a fascinating tool, and it's the centerpiece of our business here in business development. But great answers to your questions. And how can people reach you? What do you want to be sought out for as people listen to this podcast? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is probably the easiest. / Dan Allard, all one word. I'm there. I'm on some other profiles, but they're more personal. I've helped some companies with creating sales playbooks, business development playbooks. It uses kind of my growth mindset of creating a philosophy around that. So open to helping and talking to people about what they're doing. Like just having these conversations about sales, business development, consulting, those types of things. And if people are curious, want to learn about Metaspex, love to have set some conversations up there, because it is you know one of the more game changing types of applications I've ever seen. So looking forward to having more conversations and getting some products out there.
Dan, love it. Thanks for hopping on. This has been episode 58 of Three Questions Podcast. We'll get you on again in the future. I know my schedule is a little hectic and coming back from 6 weeks, but in the next 6 months, let's get you on. Just let me know how things are going. And yeah, I'll send this to you when you can. You can splice it and share it however you want. But great answers to the questions, and I appreciate you having you on.
Thanks so much, Cam. Great to be here.
All right. We'll see you in the next one.